It's Power Hour LSU.
Let's go. Shout out Lacey Dex Productions. The great Preston Guy will join us here in just a moment. But the truth here, Garrett Nussmeier is your new number 18. Harold Perkins retains his number 7 uniform. And I do agree with LSU's decision. Obviously, Garrett as a QB, there are so many number 13 trading cards out there. Heck, I still have a bunch of number 5 Garrett Nussmeier trading cards where he actually signed it Garrett Nussmeier number 5. But it was destiny. 5, his freshman jersey number. 13, his jersey number over the past 3 seasons. What does that equal? 18. It was meant to be. So shout out to Garrett Nussmeier, an honor that will last for the rest of your life, right? Being an LSU number 18, from LSU legends like Jacob Hester to other number 18s who weren't as legendary, like a Chris Curry, if you will. Shout out to you, Garrett Nussmeier, for this great honor. Now, the truth is, there was a scrimmage yesterday. We'll have somebody who was actually there. It wasn't really a scrimmage. It was a situation where Michael Van Buren actually got a lot of reps. So we'll talk to Preston Guy about it a little bit later, but it wasn't anything crazy. I don't think LSU would want a somewhat public type of event this close to the Clemson game, and there be any clips that come from it. I don't think that they wanted to do too much. Plus, we are 1 week away from game time. So there you go. So really excited about Garrett. Obviously, we're big Garrett Nussmeier fans, and we move one step closer to Clemson. Now, tomorrow night at 6 p.m., it looks as if, for right now, we're doing a big film study on Clemson. We've already done one Cade Klubnik film study, but I decided to sit down and really watch him. It's game week. And one thing that I would recommend to LSU defensively is to look every single one of the defensive players in the eyes and say, you just need to make plays. You just need to do your job. Now, I know it comes down to a lot of different things. Blake Baker's calls, some good luck. How many big plays will Cade Klubnik make over the course of a game? But the team that laid out the blueprint in order to beat Clemson was South Carolina last year. That was one of the most Herculean defensive efforts I have ever seen. And one thing South Carolina did a really good job of is just buckling up their chin straps and making plays. There were instances where Clemson offensively was able to create advantageous matchups, and they would gain 5, 6, 7 yards, but immediately get tackled. So even when Clemson had big plays last year versus South Carolina, the Gamecocks did one hell of a job gang tackling, hustling, playing their asses off, and making big plays. A perfect example of this, and you'll see it in tomorrow's film study, was there was a screen to Clemson's best wide receiver, Bryant Wesco, where he absolutely positively shook the corner. So it wasn't a screen, it was a slant, excuse me. And The corner got beat. And then when he got the football, Wesco, he cut back and had nothing but pay dirt, but he was chased down by a defensive tackle, a backup defensive tackle for South Carolina. And the only reason he chased him down was because he sprinted his ass off to the football. And you have heard me say this nonstop regarding LSU. Going in to every single game last year and throughout film studies throughout the summer. In college football in particular, you have got to make life as difficult as possible for the other team. Because, yes, Clemson did have some success offensively. But to me, when you watch a game, it is so important to watch how they have success, right? Is it them just running right through you untouched into the end zone? Is it coverage bust where guys are breaking wide open? Is it them making a good play, but your defensive line wasn't hustling their ass off to tackle a screen from behind or a slant from behind? And I have got to give Shane Beamer, Charleston White, and their coaching staff a hell of a lot of credit for looking every single one of their South Carolina Gamecock players in the face saying, look, just play your damn asses off. That's all we're asking you to do. Because so much of it was them just being competitive, sticking in there, and making good plays. Honestly, it was just that. Now, obviously, tomorrow's breakdown will be far more technical than that. But simply put, I would tell Brian Kelly, and I would tell him to the staff to their faces, one thing I will say about Clemson's offense is that this is not the most physical group. It's not. Their receivers go down relatively easy. They're not ones that love to get physical outside as blockers. They're fine blockers, but in particular, one Williams is kind of like a Tyler Lockett, where when he gets the football, he does not want to take a big hit. Their offensive linemen can get ragdolled. This is a very experienced group, but this is not 2020 Alabama's offensive line. This is not that type of group. You can get physical with them and move them around. Now, I will say something that I have heard from people that I trust in the scouting, coaching industry. All right. Clemson does feel, even though they don't have a bona fide running back, they do feel they have an advantage in between the tackles, right? They feel like the middle of their offensive line versus the LSU defensive tackles, which should be better than last year's unit, but they do feel Clemson that they can go out there and move some bodies and get their run game going. And notice I said run game, not necessarily their running backs. Cade Klubnik is a very good runner of the football. Very, 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 very good runner. Okay? So I'm looking forward to tomorrow's film study. Now, on the other side of the football, I do want to discuss LSU offensively versus Clemson's defense. And, you know, there's been so much about Clemson's defense being absolutely atrocious versus a run last year, which is true. They were not a good run defense at all. As the Clemson guest who was on with us last week, Will Vandervoort, said, they gave up a lot of rushing yards to Citadel. So for me, when I was watching LSU offensively, they will be able to move the football. I really do believe it. I do think LSU will be able to not only throw on Clemson, they will be able to run on Clemson if they get semi-decent offensive line play. Now, the truth is, LSU can still win this game with the offensive line not having a good game, because Garrett and Caden in particular are good enough to play well enough. If your defense plays well, you can win a 17-13 kind of game, which I don't think that's going to be the score, but it is in the range of outcomes, right? It is something that can happen. So your offensive line doesn't need to pitch a shutout, but it would be nice if they are at least decent, right? And it's kind of sort of the same thing we were talking about on the defensive side of the football, all right? I don't care if you get beat. I just simply do not care if you ever get beat. Just make it hard on the opposition. All right? Just make it hard. Make them have to earn it. It goes such a long way. It really, really, really does. Okay? So let's break all of this down tonight. We are 6 days away. Can you believe it? We are 6 United States days away from this game. Now, I watched a few more games. We'll focus mostly on the South Carolina game for the Cade Klubnik breakdown. And we also, and this is key, this is very, very, very key. And I want you watching this right now to pay attention. There are some things that Virginia Tech did defensively that worked versus Clemson that I think could work for us. And once again, it comes down to simply making plays. So one thing South Carolina did a really good job of, and the reason why they were actually able to win this game compared to Virginia Tech, is when Virginia Tech had a chance to bring Cade Klubnik down for a big sack or make a big tackle in the open field, when they were in position to do it, they weren't able to do it enough, right? So there was 2 instances of this where Cade faced Virginia Tech and on a blitz, the Virginia Tech slot defender had a wide open lick at him. Cade threw him off of him, and because the play was extended, he was able to throw the football down the field for an easy walk-in touchdown. All right. So you have got, if you're given the opportunity to make that play, you've got to make that play. You do. All right. We say hi to Simper. What's up, man? Good to see you. Chance, LSU Monster in the house. Jay Smacks holding it down, making all the good short form edits. We say hi to Cliff, Tyler, Dex. Let's go, Din. Get good insurance before the LSU linebackers hit you. Okay. Alexander says that slot corner was Mansour Delane. Shh. Don't you think he wants revenge? Virginia Tech was in good position to win that game. Just couldn't quite do it. Okay. You want to know what's funny, Alexander? I'm not just saying this to potentially protect Mansour Delane, but I was more so focusing on the South Carolina game. I kind of skimmed through the Virginia Tech game. I didn't even pay attention to see if it was Mansour Delane on the slot corner blitz, because I know he's more of like an outside corner. But I need to go back and actually rewatch the plays. But yes, don't you think Delane wants some revenge in this game in particular? Okay. Now, we say hi to the Master Blaster. We wouldn't be here without Tony the Tiger in the chat. All right. Preston Guy joins us here in just a moment. There's still a lot of like solo rants I want to get to. Let's talk about briefly week 0 yesterday. Really briefly. It means nothing, right? There was no SEC teams that played. I will say, though, okay, if you sat and watched that game, a big difference was Iowa State's offense was simpler. All right, so Kansas State, they lost their best offensive player to injury, the transfer Edwards. And the truth is, Iowa State was the better team. Even though there was a lot of fumbles and it was sloppy and all of it. The one thing, though, and I saw a guy named Brooks Austin, who's a very good content creator, very talented guy, even got shouted out by Shane Gillis. He had a little short that he cut earlier today about Iowa State's usage of tight ends, okay, or their usage of offense and how simple things are, all right? Part of the problem for LSU over the past couple of seasons is that they could not develop a tight end too. All right. As high as all of us were on Kamarion Pimpton, he wasn't good enough. He just wasn't. Now, as a receiver, yeah, he's got the talent to be a big-time kind of big slot wide receiver in the mold of, let's say, a Deuce Robinson, if you will, right, who is now at Florida State. The truth is, though, Iowa State, and once again, Kansas State, they're a good team, not a great team. But Kansas State was favored. Iowa State uses their tight ends so well, and they're able to create matchup advantages because of it. And once again, I got to shout out Cliff in particular. He's the president of PHL. He has brought this up. LSU being mostly an 11 personnel team, a pretty static isn't the right word because we do motion quite a bit pre-snap, but LSU always playing an 11 personnel and always being in a one tight end set makes life a little bit easier on the defense. So, look, I'm not in Joe Sloan's ear. I am not. But one thing I would do, let's just say you can't run like a traditional 12 personnel, because for LSU, I don't think that they necessarily can do that. I'm not saying that Bauer Sharp and Trey Green can't be on the field at the same time. They will be at times. It's just that neither are your traditional hand in the dirt inline tight ends, right? Bauer a little bit more than Trey. But if they can do that, holy crap, it makes life so much easier on your offensive linemen. And it makes life easier for you as an offense in terms of getting a run game going and getting a defense out-gapped, if you will. We saw Adam. Welcome back, Adam. Good to see you. Always good to see some father-child love here. That's good stuff. We do look like a whole new team, but I really hope the season opener woes are over with. Go Tigers. Yes, let's talk about the season opener. Y'all show Adam some love. Good to see you back in the chat, my brother. I'm just excited Semper's back. Semper's been one of our biggest supporters. Look. There are two different types of pressure in this game. And I do think, even though we are 4-point underdogs, there's so much more pressure on us to go out there and win this game. However, on a bigger scale, there is so much more pressure on Clemson to win this game in the eyes of the world of college football. All right. So not necessarily Clemson themselves. Dabo is safe if they lose this game. And even if they lose, they're probably still going to be favored to make the college football playoff based on the weakness of the ACC. And I do think the ACC is weak this year. I do. But if they lose, they're still probably going to win the ACC and go to the playoff. Okay, I'm still that high on Clemson. But the ACC really needs Clemson to win this game because the playoff could not have gone worse for them. Yes, Cade Klubnik kept them in the game. He did versus Texas. Clemson was thoroughly dominated in that game. Yes, the pick six, there was a blindside block that would have made it 21-14 instead of 21-10. But it was clear that Texas was the better team. It was pretty clear. And I think any one of us could have seen that. Okay? So the truth for me, and this is just how I really need a big win. I'm competitive, and everybody's looking at the ACC saying, hey, you're weak right now. And of the ACC's brand right now with Florida State looking to rebuild, I got to be honest. The ACC is shivering their timbers if Clemson does not win this game. Okay? I'm serious. I really do think that. Okay? It's not like a death knell for the conference. But I don't think the Bill Belichick thing's going to work out, and so on and so on. So the ACC could really use a victory here, okay? Because this would be the second time in as many games that Clemson has gotten beat on their home turf by an SEC team that really no one has in their top three, right? Most have Georgia, Texas, and Alabama as their top three, all right? So South Carolina wins last year. LSU would win this year. Texas beat you last year. You lost and got blown off the field by Georgia in the season opener last year. But Clemson's fine regardless. It's just the ACC needs it in terms of perception. Now, as far as LSU is concerned, this was sent to me quite a bit yesterday that E.J. Manuel, the former Florida State quarterback, and Roddy Jones, a really good college football analyst, was in studio with Kevin Connors. And one of the things that was brought up on the screen was, hey, is Brian Kelly on a hot seat? It's so dumb. It's a dumb discussion. And this isn't me coping for Brian Kelly. It is so dumb to use the word hot seat with Brian Kelly. It is so dumb. It would take a disastrous season, as strong as the SEC is this year. And I don't think it's necessarily unbelievably strong, but I think, there's just not as many weak teams. So yeah, there is a world where LSU is just, a boring 7-5 or 8-4. It could happen. But Brian Kelly is going to be fine. But if you use the phrase, because hot seat means you are close to getting fired. That's what that means. Fired. Hot. I think a lot of you understand that. But Brian Kelly is under the most pressure in this conference. It's two different things. Auburn, Hugh Freeze, sure. Oklahoma, Brent Venables, sure. Arkansas, Sam Pittman, sure. But that is a completely different thing. And I do think Sam Pittman will not be the coach at Arkansas next season. Now, I could tell you a few names, and I think some of them will upset you, but it is what it is. Simper, thank you for the super chat. Really appreciate you. And it makes sense. Our viewership goes up closer to the season. I know life gets busy in the summer, but I this year I need 200 people in every single live chat. I really do need it. Because I'm going to give you everything I have. Let's go to Brian. If you can, compare this Clemson team talent-wise to the 2023 Florida State, since both hauled in the top portal class, is our wide receiver core and D-line as good as theirs? That's a very good question. In fact, one of the best super chats you've ever given us. We really appreciate that, BT. Let's start with the defensive lines for both teams. I would probably still say Florida State's defensive line in 2023 is better than Clemson's defensive line. Jared Verse, I think, is better than TJ Parker. I would take Lovett and Fisk over Capehart and Woods. That's very close, though. Very, very, very close. And then, obviously, the opposite defensive end would be, Patrick Payton and Will Helt. So it's pretty even. They're still really good. The problem, Brian, though, is even if I think the 2023 Florida State defensive line is better than the Clemson 2023 defensive line, we had Will Campbell then. We don't have Will Campbell now. So football is a matchup game, in particular in the trenches, and we're just not going to be able to potentially match up as well in this game as we did back then. That doesn't mean we need them to win. And obviously, Florida State's defense was equally as good versus a run as they were versus the pass. Now, we go to the second level. Slight edge to Clemson. I am a Sammy Brown believer. I do think he's good. Secondary edge to Florida State, right? That's a really, really, really good team. And, that Florida State 2022 secondary was really good, but that Jamie Robinson, but, he left to the pros, but they still had Azariah Thomas and Bernardo Brown and all those guys. That was a really good secondary. And we're still able to move the football at will if we just didn't drop, right? And then obviously, you talked about the receivers. These Clemson receivers are just so different than the Florida State receivers, right? Those Florida State receivers were jump ball physical types of players, where these Clemson receivers are speed receivers, very good route runners, good in space, creative after the catch. They're not nearly as physical, though, okay? Tight end, they had Jaheim Bell, and who's the blocking tight end for them that was good? Offensive line, I would say Clemson and Florida State's offensive lines are somewhat similar. Clemson's obviously has more experience returning, but I don't know how elite of a group that is. They're still a really good group. Really, really, really good group. I do think, though, when they went up against the better teams and the teams that had like future pros on their defensive lines, they had issues. All right. And that's not really my opinion. It's just what happened. Okay. People that know ball more than me will tell you the same thing. So I still give, and obviously Cade and Jordan Travis to me is a bit of a push, considering Cade is a better quarterback than Jordan Travis, in particular, a better pro prospect than Jordan Travis. Jordan played his best versus us. Now, we talked about matchups. LSU will be in a better situation with a defensive mind like Blake Baker than they were with Matt House. So we'll see what happens. Now, the funny thing is, if I were asked by both teams what I would do versus the opposing team's defense, where I think both teams would have issues is with 3 wide receiver sets. Okay. I really do think that would work for both teams after watching them all day. Now, once again, that's a very simplified way of breaking it down, and an actual football coach can tell you way more about the advantages and disadvantages of trips. And there's different ways you can run trips, right? You can obviously run your traditional trips where you have 1, 2, 3, and then you can do trips bunch, and then you can motion into trips. There's a lot of different things you can do. But, when I watched the LSU offense last year, so much of why I felt they had issues, they really struggled creating numbers advantages. And I do think Joe Sloan used way too many just balanced 2 wide receiver sets to both sides of the line of scrimmage, or to both sides of the football. And the reason that doesn't work is because I feel as a defense, it's easier to distribute the routes, right? Where I feel if you run trips, one of the things that I think the best college OCs use, once again, this is so simplified, but it makes sense to me. I hope it makes sense to you. One thing the best OCs do is that they will spread you out and run and have a trips formation to one side of the line of scrimmage, and then actually work the opposite side. All right. Brian Daboll of the Giants has done a good job of doing this with Jackson Dart and the Giants, somewhat collegiately, and Dart's done a good job working to the opposite side of the field, away from the trips. But for me, just watching LSU, I felt like our offense was better when we did that. Now, I don't have like the EPA on-off, yard per play on-off numbers in front of me. I would love to have access to that. I'm sure someone does the tracking numbers, whether it be Sports Radar, SIS, True Media, or something like that. But I would say, hey, Joe, this is what I think you should do. And the reason why in particular I like it is because Garrett is so good at just finding where the hole is. Pause. That is such a bad pause situation. But there you go. What's up, Andrew? Good to see you. Jared, the real PHL MVP's in the house. Or no, that I can argue Sibley's that. Good to see you. Once again, 208 strong across all platforms. Please hit that like, subscribe, ring the bell. And look, I'm very glad. This is kind of ironic. I don't know if it has anything to do with this, but our viewership has actually grown in Lafayette, in the 337 region. I'm very happy because of that, because, well, you know why. Coming up next, Preston Guy. Let's go. Are you missing that sweet swing? If pain is holding your golf game back, you must check out the full simulator at the Lafayette location of Laborde Therapy Center. Yes, Chase and his team built this simulator to go along with a full set of programs catered to your needs. Yes, this entire team at Laborde Therapy worked hard to fix that back, your elbow, shoulders, wrists, knees, toes. It doesn't matter. at their Lafayette location. 337-981-4053. Call today. But what if you don't golf? And what if you don't live in Lafayette? No problem. They fix anything therapy related. Book today, LabordeTherapy.com, with locations in Carencro, Youngsville, Morgan City, and Crowley. LabordeTherapy.com, LABORDE Therapy.com. Let's go. Preston Guy, your biggest takeaway from the get-together in Tiger Stadium last night was what?
Well, first off, I'm going to preface this with telling you, let's not overreact. This was a dress rehearsal. This was the the last Saturday before football season. This was everybody getting your uniforms. We're going to Tiger Stadium, swapping out, getting the personnel, that kind of stuff. Nussmeier did not throw. So, biggest takeaway that I can take from that, if Nussmeier gets hurt, you are in trouble, because neither Michael Van Buren nor Colin Hurley looked like they were prepared to lead this team yet. Now, that's not to say that, after a few starts under their belt, they couldn't get things rocking and rolling. But as of August 23rd, 2025, I don't have very much confidence in either of them to take this team where it needs to go. So I'm always a little careful about being overcritical in these situations, but Michael Van Buren in particular had a lot of accuracy and command issues out there. So, Colin Hurley, very young kid. I mean, he had, he completed 4 straight in his 11-11. Then he had 4 straight incompletions. And, there's just a few issues with these guys if Nussmeier were to go down. So that being said, protect number 18 this year. That's your biggest key to victory, is keep number 18 healthy.
Number 18 to Garrett Nussmeier. Your thoughts on that?
I mean, a dead obvious pick for me. My first reaction to that was, I wonder what Matt Mock thinks of this. So I texted Matt and I asked him, I said, man, what's your thoughts on Nussmeier? And he said what probably a lot of us were thinking. Like, he had opportunities to go leave and go play elsewhere. He decided to stick around and earn it and earn all our respect along the ways. And I think that he's been an excellent leader, both, on and off the field. He's done everything you can ask a young man to do. So, waited behind Jaden Daniels and Max Johnson and a number of other starters. So, absolutely. In my opinion, it was a no-brainer. The only other person I would have considered for this would be Whit Weeks, but ultimately, I think Nuss was the guy to go with for this designation.
The full quote here from P. Guy, absolutely love it. Not only has he been a great player, he has stuck with LSU and other kids would have transferred. Here you go. Really good stuff. Make sure you go follow Mr. Preston Guy. Actually, I don't follow you from my personal. Well, actually, no,
what?
I thought I did. Dude,
Carter.
I know. But
I'm devastated.
I know, but I have your Twitter. I have your tweet alerts. You're, by the way, you are one of 3 LSU media members who I have tweet alerts on for.
God bless your soul. First off, who are the other 2?
Well, I can't reveal that because then
but you revealed it for me. All right, fair enough.
Yeah,
fair enough.
You become one of my closest buddies that not only does this, but I trust for just overall savvy media advice.
Here's what I want to know, though. Here's the meat and potato question. How many times do I tweet something stupid and you contemplate, man, do I need to take these notifications off? Because now he's arguing about Nintendo 64 games on his Twitter. How many times do you get that urge?
I'll be honest. Okay. One of the other ones agreed to make his PHL debut on Wednesday. I don't know if he's going to do it or not. He's a very busy guy. But of the 3 up to this point, you're my favorite to have on here. Okay. Lacey Dex Productions, Big Dog Hamilton holding it down. Before I answer this, Preston, have you ever been to Kinder, Louisiana? KINDER.
Not intentionally.
Oh, you never went it up at Kashada? And no, none of that.
No. I couldn't point it out on a map. I'm sorry, man. I hate to disappoint you.
God, you cover every freaking high school team in Louisiana. Gotta go to Fosto's, man. Get you some fried gator, dude. Are you a gator guy?
Oh, I love gator. Here's the thing. I like blackened gator a little more than like fried gator, especially with some white remoulade. But unfamiliar. I might have to work my way out there. Typically, when it goes to like going to games, typically most of the time I'm like in Baton Rouge or New Orleans, that kind of area. Maybe Lafayette a time or two, but typically I stick to South Louisiana when it comes to going to the games.
You know, it's interesting. There's a lot of people that do like LSU media that were linemen, right? You number 77. You were a good lineman yourself.
Good might be a stretch.
Well, I mean, for people like us, our athleticism was capped.
I did my best.
Do you expect this new offensive line to have success running the ball? Not this season, Preston. We're talking about
just against Clemson.
Against Clemson.
Yeah. Boy, I hate it when they ask me questions that I have to come off like a negative Nancy for. But how could you have that expectation? What have they shown you in fall camp to make you think that they can dominate what might be the best defensive line in the country? The hope is that they can get good enough to get 3 or 4 yards push when they need it. You know, when you have an offense that cannot get 3 or 4 yards push, you're going to have this clunky offense where you're like, you're moving the ball and drives just stall out all the time because you can't get the easy yards. But you don't even know exactly who your starting lineup is. So Weston Davis worked at right tackle, but Carius Kern he wasn't really participating this weekend on Saturday night. Braylon Moore was out in shorts. Now everybody was in shorts. He was in pads, but he was in loose shorts. So he wasn't in the drills participating. So you had DJ Chester at center and Paul Mabinga at left guard. So you really don't know those two spots who your true starter is. So you don't even know who your 5 is for LSU at this point. And you're about to go up against one of the best defensive lines in the country. I mean, look, Carter, there's nothing that I have where I can tell you, yes, this offensive line should go out and beat Clemson's defensive line. But this is tackle football we're talking about. Weird things happen. I mean, sometimes they go out. You know the best example I can think about this? Do you remember Josh Dworczyk?
I love Josh Dworczyk. Yeah, I already know what you're going to say.
You already know the story, right?
Yeah,
all right.
Every time I see Josh, I bring it up to him.
So you lost your Chris Falk, your left tackle, in 2012, torn ACL, and things were really starting to look down for that team that a lot of people were expecting to repeat as SEC champions, if not avenge the national championship loss because Mettenberger and all that hype around him. Anyways, all that to say, you go into this game against South Carolina and you're looking at it and you're like, man, Jadeveon Clowney is about to destroy you. And you're about to put some, journeyman, versatile lineman with 2 reconstructive knee surgeries, Josh Dworczyk, and he's about to be your left tackle. And I'll be God, he went out there and locked Jadeveon Clowney down as LSU came away with a 2-score victory. It was an impressive day, to say the least. So sometimes football is weird, and I don't think anybody would have told you that the 5th-year senior lineman with 2 replaced knees was going to go out there and lock down Jadeveon Clowney. But it happened, and that's kind of my positive spin. My positive Tiger spin is, who knows, crazier things have happened.
Man, I remember that game, and I was friends with Josh, not like close or anything like that, but we lived in the same apartment complex, and he got the notification basically on a few days' notice that he was going to do it, and he did. It was also the Jeremy Hill breakout game, and I was on the field. Yeah, I was on the field for that game.
Oh, that's cool.
Which was insane because I was like, hey, I want to pass for the field game. The student TV let me be on the field because I wanted to see Jadeveon Clowney. I wanted to stand next to the guy, and I was like, whoa, this dude is a freaking monster. And Josh Dworczyk did the dang thing. And I will say, in honor of this young man getting cut, Lyle Collins got cut today.
Yeah,
he made one whale of a save of a block. It was the only play Jurasik made a mistake, and Clowney was about to end Mettenberger's life, and Lyell at the last second dove and blocked Clowney, and that was going to be the only pressure. Clowney had 5 tackles, had a few pass deflections, but no big plays in that game. So anytime that story pops up, and that's why I like having you on, man. It shows you that anyone could do it, right? Because I think Jurasik would say, "Hey, Weston Davis, you're way more talented than me. You're going up against a guy who's good, but not as good as Jadeveon Clowney. You can do it. You could do it." Preston, you're a modern day LSU. I'll say you're a historian, man. You look this stuff up. Is this the best quarterback we've ever opened against?
You know what's funny is you talk about being a historian there. So I'm a 3rd generation LSU alumni. Okay. My wife graduated from LSU, my dad, my mom, my grandfather. So I've heard just endless LSU stories. And Mike Scarborough posted a segment with Buddy Sanji with Mike Archer the other day. And I was spouting out there. I was like, man, this was Arnsparger's fault, man. Bill Arnsparger took the AD job at Florida, and he pushed in Mike Archer before he was ready. And then you look at Mike Archer's career after that. He never took a major head coaching job after. He clearly wasn't ready for a job like LSU. And then you look at, Steve Spurrier was one of the people who applied for the LSU job when Mike Archer got it. So it's like, man, could you imagine what happened to that program? So I completely am just pissed at Bill Arnsparger after a successful 4-year stretch. And I look at you with the Mike Archer graphic on the fly. So anyways, I'm still pissed about that. And Mike's like, dude, how old are you? You're not allowed to talk about stuff like this. You weren't there. I'm like, brother, hold up now. Hold up now. I've listened to grandpa and dad complain about this stuff for 30 years. That's good enough for me. So yeah, I try to be a bit of a historian with it. But in terms of opener quarterbacks, I think we were talking about recent history. So more of a recent historian. Darren Thomas for Oregon, 2011. Was a really, really good one. In fact, that Oregon matchup, you remember, they had just lost to Cam Newton in the national title and brought back most of their people, which, by the way, I wrote a column about Cam Newton this week if y'all want to go read that, why Joe Burrow was better. But anyways, that's either here nor there. That was a really good one, and that was a vaunted Oregon offense that LSU was faced against, and they of course took care of business there. I'm trying to think, but Darren Thomas wasn't like the polished pure passer.
No, I mean he was a good college quarterback.
Yeah, right? He was just very good and a dynamic athlete, right? But he had no NFL aspirations. I mean, I'm sure he had aspirations, but the NFL had no aspirations for him. No. Let's think.
It's either Cade or
definitely
Jordan
not.
Travis.
Who's that?
Jordan Travis, either Cade or Jordan Travis.
No, Klubnik's better than Jordan Travis.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
Especially coming into the matchup. I mean, Jordan Travis did have 13-0 year, but Jordan Travis wasn't. He had a modest year in 2022. Yeah, I'm trying to think who else the quarterback. I mean, are we counting the SEC all-time single game passing record holder? God, what is that guy's name for Mississippi State? And he got benched 2 weeks later, but he broke the record. Yeah, him. I remember predicting him to be SEC Player of the Year preseason because I was like, this dude tore it up at Stanford, and then week 1 he hung 636 on LSU. I said that's looking good, but then he got benched 2 weeks later. That's why when people ask me what was worse, 2020 or 2023, I'm like, dude, that number alone. For 2023, that should tell you all you need to know. SEC record for passing yards, and then he gets benched. I mean, my God, how much worse as defense can you get? I would say he's probably the best in recent history. I mean, you had that guy for TCU that was pretty good. You want to know who's underrated in this discussion is TJ Yates. North Carolina. For UNC. Yeah, and they came in with 17 really suspended players, and LSU looked like they were kicking their ass in the first half, just to kind of in typical Les Miles fashion blow. It was a less special. It was go up big and then choke it away. Yeah, no, it was unbelievable. But I think Klubnik, and I don't have the list in front of me that I'm Googling and pulling up, but I would say so. And particularly getting wide open the Heisman #1 draft pick are this year. I mean, it's wide open. Anybody could walk out of it and be the best player in the country this year. I mean,
let's go to Sibley. I believe in great players and not great schemes. When did analysts start to downplay great players in favor of coaches and schemes? I believe in rotating coaches and getting great players. Yeah, I mostly agree with that, but it can get tipped on the scales where your coach just gets too bad. So let's use Preston's example for instance, right? So KJ Costello lights up 2020 LSU, and they had Jay Ward, who's still in the NFL. Derek Stingley didn't play in that game, but they still had a lot of NFL guys. And then they played Arkansas the next week, and they shut them down. Arkansas. And Arkansas's defensive coordinator was Barry Odom, who's, top 5 defensive coach probably in college football. He's a head coach now, but as a DC, he's really, really, really good. So I do agree players will always, overcome coaches, Sibley, but if it gets too far in one direction, and that's actually what happened last year, Preston, with Clemson. Wes Goodwin was their defensive coordinator, and that was kind of an in-house kind of Dabo hire. And they go out there and get Tom Allen, who's very well-respected defensive coordinator and did a great job with Penn State last year.
Man, and to answer your question, when this happened, I mean, I would say probably around the year 1998 when Rich Rod was doing the spread at Tulane, and you started to see that you could use these subpar athletes and give it a weird, tricky, spread option scheme. And then all of a sudden, you got guys who aren't that great, but they're still putting up big numbers and having a chance to win ball games. Coaching just matters more. I would argue college football is the sport where coaching matters the most. Okay?
Easily.
It matters more than the NFL.
You think philosophically like me. That's why, and I totally agree with that. It's something I think about.
I mean, maybe high school football, it matters more, but of major, like on ESPN, major sports like that, yeah, college football. Let's put it like this: collegiate and above, all sports. I can't think of one where coaching matters more than college football, because there's just so much about how you get the 11 guys to work and play together. Look, ultimately, Ed Orgeron forged the greatest football team ever assembled, and he's not much of a great coach. I think most people would agree. And the second best team was coached by Larry Coker. So there is something to be said about just assembling the Avengers and telling them to go play ball. But even so, I mean, a lot of those players that look so good for LSU in 2019, they needed Joe Brady to put them in position to be successful. Here's the thing about football, man. Position matters so much. Putting yourself in a position to be successful is just so wildly important. In fact, one of my things when I talk to young guys about blocking is it's literally putting yourself just in between that guy and where he needs to be. That's half the block. Is literally just putting yourself in the right position. So in terms of like why it's so important in football, I mean, look, you get guys and you ran a crappy scheme out there. There's just not much they can do to be successful. You have to give them some help from a schematic level.
Let's go to Clemson alumni 04. This happens every year. Week of, we have a lot of Clemson fans tune into our show. Please hit the subscribe button, like button. We did have a really good Clemson guest last week, and he wants to know, how does LSU's coaching staff compare to Clemson's? Okay. I'll go first. I think Dabo and BK are actually a lot in common in many ways. Many feel that they're cringe, but they stay true to themselves. They have obviously had a lot of success. They're both Hall of Famers, obviously. Dabo just has natties and Brian Kelly does not.
Right.
I do think their personalities are somewhat similar. I think obviously Dabo is a little bit more rigid in his ways than Brian Kelly, but as far as the OC DC combo is concerned, you have Garrett Riley, who I think is a little overvalued because of the last name of Riley, but he's good. And then you obviously have Tom Allen. We'll see how he does in this first season. And then LSU have Joe Sloan, who's
Matt Luke is he one of the assistants for like offensive line coach or something like that for him? I mean, that's a big name guy.
He's probably the best position coach in this game. I mean, he's an elite offensive line coach at Georgia, and then obviously when he was with Ole Miss. But yeah, Clemson's got a really good staff, especially since Dabo decided to go outside the building. You know, and I know Clemson alumni, as you being a Clemson fan, you know how uncomfortable that was for Dabo to fire Goodwin, who's this guy, and then actually go into the portal. So I give Dabo a lot of credit for going outside of his comfort zone. But I wouldn't say that like one coaching staff has like a significant advantage over the other in this.
It's a close argument, no doubt in my mind about it. And certainly in terms of proven coaching staff, Clemson's the more proven coaching staff. Yeah. The counter argument to that I'm about to make was stronger 2 years ago, in that perhaps Brian Kelly is better adapted for this era of football that we're in, NIL, transfer portal, that kind of stuff. Whereas Dabo's been very resistant to it, but even Dabo's taking portal guys now. But, you know, I mean, we're talking about a multinational champion coach. And when you look at LSU's coaching staff, I mean, Blake Baker's a high-paid guy, but he's put together some solid defenses. But we're not talking about a guy who's revered to as one of the best coordinators in football. I mean, he's done a good job. He's a good coordinator. You know, I would argue top 20, top 15, somewhere in there. Joe Sloan is a relatively unproven guy, although I have reason to believe he can put together a better offense than he did last year. But neither one of these guys are necessarily super high-end guys. Frank Wilson is, of course, a legendary coach in his own respect. You know, so there's certainly some guys on LSU's coaching staff, but there's certainly some guys on Clemson. You know, I'd argue it's close to a push, given that Brian Kelly seems to be better adapted for this era. However, we're talking about a guy with 2 national championships. I mean, I would give the edge to Clemson in this matchup, coaching wise,
especially since they're at home, right? And communication between coaches is a lot easier at home. I want to get to this because you have pretty good, you know, big picture arguments about college football. You texted me, a lot of different media members texted me after last Thursday's live stream, the 8 versus 9 debate, and you were wondering like, me and Rufino hate each other. I do not hate. It's the exact opposite. Yeah. It's one of my best.
He's a good guy. He's a good guy. I saw him last night. Me and him were hanging out.
Okay, good.
But you know, he's just you know. He'll get on you, won't he?
Oh, that's and true story. It wouldn't have happened because we had a scheduling conflict for my normal live stream time, which was 6. Okay, I had to move it to 5 because I'm doing high school play-by-play this year. All right, I'm doing some other play-by-play for football this year. Really cool opportunity. So I had to go do something for that at 6. And that is a topic that, you know, we disagree on almost everything. That is a topic that we disagree with the most. So it took that event happening, then rescheduling the live stream for 5 p.m., and then the story breaking right before the live stream began. So God wanted that debate to happen, even though there's a lot of cursing involved in that. So I want Preston Guy's thoughts on the 8 versus 9 debate.
Boy, what can I say here to not get Blake Rufino in my DMs killing me? Let's see here. And I'm just kidding, Blake. Let's see here. I don't have a necessarily strong opinion, but based on whether it was the right move for the SEC or not. I will say this. I think more so than trying to get your conference to have a champion, a national champion, I'd say the real goal is to determine a champion fairly. Okay. And one of the things I have despised about the SEC setup, especially the 2012 to what was that 2023 era, there was one rotating opponent on your calendar. And my God, if you just happen to draw 7 teams who were down for a decade, like you think Ole Miss appreciated that Vanderbilt as their cross division opponent? My God, or the East was down for a long time, and then you get one weak West opponent, it wasn't fair. There wasn't enough rotation. Now, if I'm not mistaken, in a 4-year window, you will play every team in the SEC now. I love that.
Oh my God.
I love that there's now 6 teams rotating on your schedule. They said in 4 years, I don't know how the math works on this, but in 4 years, you will play at every SEC stadium. That's a huge deal, in my opinion.
Huge deal. Yes.
Huge deal. It's now actually resembles a conference. So in terms of whether or not you're getting a champion or not, I think, look, you might put a team or two less in the playoff field, but I would argue the onus shifts to the playoff committee to respect the shift that the SEC made. They need to sit down and respect that every team in the SEC is playing 10 Power 5 games, and frankly, the SEC is tougher. The SEC just is. One of these things is not like the other. It is a tougher conference. So we need to get on the SEC on the playoff committee to make sure that they are recognizing and not punishing the SEC for pulling their big boy pants up. I think that is the job of everybody in the country, to put pressure on them. Like, I'm sorry, you cannot stick a 10-2 what is ACC team over a 9-3 SEC team with quality wins. Now, if you happen to roll the die one year and you get a really weak SEC schedule, you don't get preferential treatment like that.
Right. It depends. Yeah. And here's I want to clarify, because so much of the debate was centered around the playoff. When my major point, and this is where, and I will be honest, Preston, I've been doing this for a very, very, very long time. There have been 2 arguments that have pissed people off. I ran about Caitlin Clark a few years ago, which I won't get into, and a lot of people remember that are.
What's the rant? What's the rant? Tell me quick.
It's a lot of LSU women's basketball success. We benefited from Caitlin Clark in many ways, even though she eventually
I have a different Caitlin Clark rant, and it is that Caitlin Clark did not break the men's scoring record. Can we stop saying she broke Pete Maravich's record? She didn't play men's basketball, and apparently that makes me, sexist.
I can understand people.
Pete Maravich is the men's basketball scoring champion of all time. By the way, 12 points more per game than her, just in case you were wondering.
That's insane.
And it's unbelievable. Okay, so let's just stop disrespecting Caitlin Clark by making the comparison. But also, Caitlin Clark is the women's Caitlin Clark scored 0 points in the men's league. Can we stop saying she broke his record? It's dumb. It's dumb. It's intellectually dishonest. It's trying to push whatever kind of narrative you want to push. It's for clicks. It's disingenuous from the start. I don't care who she outscored in the men's league. She didn't score a point in the men's league. I don't care. We should have celebrated her record when she broke the half-court shot and broke the women's record. That's great. You're one of the greatest women's players of all time. All right. Anyways, ran over. Sorry.
Yeah. So this is my thing about the 9 versus 8 debate, is that so many people in the comment section miss my major point. Okay. Yes, it is easier for any team in a conference to make a playoff if you have to play one less conference game. All right. I've done so much research on this. I know some of the ADs who have pushed the strongest against 8 versus 9. And I'm not inside source guy, and this stuff is very sensitive information, but it's something I think about all the time, the 8 versus 9 debate. Why I am so pro 9 has nothing really to do with the playoff, right?
Yeah.
I could, and I know this sounds counterintuitive, but I really can care less about the playoff. I really can care less, because we're fighting a losing battle anyway, trying to determine a champion in a sport where there's 150 bajillion teams, right? And there's different levels of conferences, right? But you want to know one thing you can control: making things as even as you possibly can in your own conference, where there's only 16 teams. All right. And for so long, a school like LSU, like you were mentioning a minute ago with the cross division rival rule, had to play Florida every year, which was
the West.
Yes, which was a huge disadvantage compared to Ole Miss and Texas A&M, who got to play South Carolina every year, right? So the thing I like about a 9-game conference schedule, it is going to be so much easier to fairly determine who the best teams and coaches are, right? Like I hated it when you would see graphics comparing the wins and losses of Gus Malzahn to Jimbo Fisher and so on, when if you were to just flip, if Texas A&M's permanent cross division was Georgia and Auburn's cross division was South Carolina during the Muschamp years, imagine what Gus Malzahn's record would have been if that were the case. It would be even way better than what it was. So the 9-game conference schedule is going to make the SEC an actual conference, right? Where you are playing every team every 2 years, right? And yes, there are 3 permanents. We can get into the debate of those 3 permanents and how much tougher it is for some schools like Alabama. You got to have Tennessee on there. You got to have Auburn on there. And LSU, Alabama draws the biggest number every year. So the SEC is probably going to want that to be a permanent. And that's why Saban was bitching about it. And I understood his side of things. But even if you get a tough 3 permanent draw, you're still, in theory,
it's 33% of your schedule.
Right. And then you're still playing 6 other SEC schools, right?
Yeah.
It's not the same as what it used to be, where a lot of schools like Kentucky, all right, and people wonder why I've done so many anti-Kentucky rants and Mark Stoops is overrated and all of it, is that he got to play Mississippi State. So he got to play the East.
That's a good draw. And the East, yeah.
Yes. So that is a huge advantage. Massive advantage.
Massive. And look, I'm sorry. Think about Bama getting to play Tennessee in their down era. By the way, as soon as Tennessee gets good, they're one of the 3 they're stuck with. And Saban's like, well, I don't know how I got stuck with it. I don't know, Nick. Maybe you lobbied for that crap for 10 freaking years, and now you got what you asked for. God, dude, the insufferability of Saban sometimes with the things he would lobby for just blew my mind, the hypocrisy behind it. And it's literally just, you're going to say whatever you want to say to get an advantage on your schedule, man. I mean, my God, come on, shove it. Yes, the SEC was a farce with their schedule for 12 years. So when people get fired up about 8 versus 9, and this is going to hurt LSU's playoff, I could give 2 shits less, because guess what? It's 10 times better than what you had, where if you got that tough draw like the West plus Florida, suck it up. You know what I mean? There were years where Vanderbilt was going 9 wins because of how down the East was during that period. Remember the James Franklin years? And granted, I'm not taking away what he did, but if you flip Vanderbilt to LSU schedule, they're going 4-8 or 5-7 during that year. That just is what it is, man. How many times has LSU been in some crappy Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl? Because LSU got a tough slate. That just is. It's just how the cookie. You got to play Saban every year. You got to play Florida every year. You got to play the West. I mean, and then okay, well, all right, those teams are all good. You got a tough draw this year. Hey, guess what? Next year, guess who you got to play? The same teams plus 1 new team, maybe. I mean, so yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like, okay, I hope you get Vanderbilt next year instead of Georgia. Remember 2013? That schedule LSU drew in 2013, where they had Georgia and Florida out of the East, and
Aaron Murray,
they get that. So that really good football team, by the way, really good football team went 9-3 in the regular season, because you gotta go to Bama and to Georgia and then to Ole Miss.
Yeah,
dude. If you flip sides of the SEC, that team very well could go 11-1 if it had a better scheduling setup. It just is what it is, man.
And the thing is,
the thing is, maybe the 8 that they have now is better. Sure, I can see that, but it's certainly a hell of a lot better than the 7+1 they used to do.
And here's the thing, okay? I think if you come at this with, well, we need to just worry about whatever makes life easier for LSU to get into the college football playoff, I would push back on 2 different things. If you are good enough to win a national championship, you will find a way, okay? And the only time I feel sympathetic for teams that do eventually lose in a playoff is when you have to rematch, right? We've seen that rematches are backbreakers for us, and then Oregon last year, because you've already beaten this team, all right? And then you got to play them again and whatever. But 2011 LSU played 10 Power 4 teams. They had no problem. They were good enough. And they just got unlucky that they had to rematch Alabama. 2019 LSU, you could have given them an all Power 4 schedule. They're winning all the games and finding a way to get it done. 2021 Georgia found a way to win a national championship. They played 10 Power 4 teams. 2022 Georgia, they played 10 Power 4 teams. I mean, if you're good enough, you will find a way. And this idea, well, we just need to make it as soft as we possibly can to get to the playoff, I just think it's kind of weak. I really do.
Here's the deal. He's probably right that it will cost a team a playoff spot at some point down the line. I would argue that because that is the truth, you need to go and, lobby to the College Football Playoff Committee that they need to accommodate this into their rankings. They need to account for it. It needs to no longer be, and it feels like in college football for the longest time, it's been, okay, well, what's your record? Okay, we're going to put all the 12-0 teams here and then the 11-1 teams there. And we're going to just double check real quick. Do any of those 12-0 teams have the weakest schedule we've ever seen? And do any of those 11-1 teams have the strongest we've ever seen? Maybe slide them one a spot above. I think you need to kind of get rid of this addiction to looking at the L column and rating accordingly, because the conferences are just radically different now. I think you need to look at an SEC 9-3 is probably going to be stronger than an ACC 10-2. That's just probably the reality moving forward. You have to adjust your subjectivity based on what it's been over the years.
Right. So let's go to Jared Super Chat. He sent a Venmo. 9 SEC games in a Big Ten game is a heavy lift. Well, that Power 4 team doesn't have to be a Big Ten team. And then on top of that, is so what? I'm excited for Texas and Ohio State. I love it. I'm excited that Alabama scheduled at Florida State. Now, there's no way they would have known that they would suck as bad as they are now. I think it's great. I really do think so. And once again, if you're good enough, you'll find a way to get it done. And on top of that, to your point, Preston, let me just say this, because I've just done so much research on this and talked to people at the SEC about this and so on. It's not a coincidence that there was something that was released that said, hey, the playoff, and I know you saw this, the playoff is going to have some new strength of schedule metrics mixed in there. The SEC would not have just added an extra conference game just for an extra $5 million.
There had to be some assurances in place.
There needed to be more playoff assurances without there being, AQs, if you will. But I guarantee you, from an LSU standpoint, I will acknowledge that it is harder with a 9-game conference schedule.
Can I throw a hypothetical out at you? What if it was financial assurances and not playoff assurances? Because it very is possible this decision was made because they knew more money was on the table and, playoff spots be damned.
Yeah. That's definitely it. I mean, I think the number is an extra $5 million for everyone to, but I cannot state this enough. All right. You guys will be thanking me when you on a college football Saturday on an LSU bye week is not watching Alabama Mercer anymore. Okay. You have actual great games, because for me, sure, LSU is my favorite thing. LSU football will always be my favorite team, more than Liverpool, more than the Pelicans, more than anything else. Okay. But I'm also a fan of the sport, and this will make the sport better. Adding all these extra games, making schedules more even across the board. This one extra conference game does that. I really do believe it. Now, are you still going to dodge some of the tougher teams on some schedules compared to others? Yes. Yeah. But it's not going to be as frequent as and as egregious as, let's just say, last year, right? Where Georgia, I felt, had one of the hardest SEC schedules. They were able to still get it done. But Texas,
one of my probably takes that probably more people will just say I'm objectively incorrect at. I wouldn't even call it a hot take. I don't necessarily mind the November cupcake. I don't mind. I think too many cupcakes is awful. 3 cupcakes, I've never been too upset by, especially if like one of them's like, an intriguing, like, okay, you get to play the in-state school. Okay. Um, I think cupcake games are kind of what make college sports a little different in that you get an opportunity to step up to that big stage and embarrass them. You know how long Troy has been talking about their win in Tiger Stadium? Who was it? Who was it who beat Florida a few years back? Was that Georgia Southerners? Anyways, those Appalachian State, Michigan, these upsets of just a team that doesn't even belong on the field goes out there and beats the big dog. It's kind of one of the beautiful things about college athletics in general. So I've never been all that upset seeing that. Particularly, it's always fun to me when you look up and, oh man, Alabama is struggling against Georgia Southern. It's like tied at halftime or whatever. And then, of course, they almost always pull away late because they're a superior team. I've never hated the cupcake matchup. I'm not going to say it's better than a quality SEC football game. I mean, I'm not insane. I'm just telling you, like, I don't think it ruins the sport the way a lot of people argue it does.
Let's go to simply. The reality is that athletic directors are trying to maximize revenue, but fans are trying to maximize wins and natties. ADs have a budget to balance and report to the president. Yeah, absolutely. And look, Sylvia, I know you know a lot of these people that deal with these kinds of conversations. Look, I understand it. I understand fans just want playoff appearances. I totally get it. But for me, I grew up on a college football regular season being the creme de la creme. And that product has gotten better for you. Okay. Now, does that mean it's harder to win games? Yeah. But I'll also say this. Most of you watching this are LSU fans. I'd say a few of you are Clemson fans watching. But at least you're not Arkansas. At least you're not Vanderbilt. They are shivering their timbers over this. And I will say this part of the reason why I started doing a lot of research on this is that Kentucky was the most vocal about pushing back against a 9-game conference schedule. And it makes sense. It makes
a lot of sense. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, Preston. I mean, as always, we could talk for forever. Is there anything else LSU Clemson college football related that you want to share with the lovely PHL Nation?
Oh man. I'll avoid any plugs here, but I'll just say I am just so excited for a good season. For football to be back. Watching some college football yesterday was just, it felt like my soul was corrected. My happy place is truly when college football is on the TV or at the gate in the stadium that I'm at, and we get that in 6 days, Carter. So I just hope that y'all are all as excited as I am. I think LSU will be in the playoffs this year. I think LSU makes it. I think I picked them on my show to go 10-2, and watch out for them Tigers. I'm probably a little higher than most media members are right now.
Oh, baby. Following P Guy 77. We just got a Preston. We just got a Preston Guy. Once again, his full schedule. Oh, it's a P Guy 77, the best LSU follow on Twitter. One of 3 LSU Twitter alerts. But it's going to you have LSU in the college football playoff.
Yep,
10-2.
Easily. And I think that they will host a playoff game in Tiger Stadium.
Oh, let's freaking go. That is my dream season. As crazy as it sounds, I would much rather a 10-2 season where we're hosting a first-round playoff game compared to an 11-1 season where we get a bye. I want the playoff game in Tiger Stadium. I don't
look, I just look at this team and I'm like, I think the offensive line figures it out in their average. I think Josh Dworczyk is inspiring me right now. Yeah. I think they're just going to be good enough. I don't know if there's a national championship team, but I do think that they're going to be fun to watch.
And what were your 2 losses on the schedule?
I picked Clemson and Oklahoma. I'm not a believer in Alabama post Saban. I actually don't like Ty Simpson at all. think Ty Simpson's a pretty bad quarterback. I thought Jalen Milroe was a bad quarterback. Excellent athlete. Excellent running back. Wonderful running back. Bad quarterback. LSU's defense was just worse. And I believe in LSU's defense this year. But here's the thing. Ty Simpson couldn't beat out Jalen Milroe. Or come close to beating him out. I mean, that's pretty much what I need to know. So I'm not a believer. In fact, I said I wouldn't be shocked if Keelan Russell somehow is starting that game by the time that game rolls around, because we'll be in November by then. And, if things aren't going the way they need to go to for Bama. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I'm just telling you, I don't believe in Alabama this season. So I think LSU goes into Tuscaloosa, gets a win. I think LSU is going to drop to Clemson because there's nothing on paper about that matchup that tells me LSU should win this game. It is a bad matchup in terms of where LSU's weaknesses are and where Clemson's strengths are. I think LSU's got a lot of new players, more new players learning to play with each other, and it's on the road at Clemson. Nothing tells me LSU should win, which is why LSU probably will win the game because they like making me look stupid. And then I think LSU rips off 10 straight before looking forward to the playoffs and SEC championship and dropping to Oklahoma.
I can't believe it. Preston just made our season a sandwich, right? A W sandwich, baby.
Well, an L sandwich. Well, okay, yeah, W sandwich. A bunch of L's and a W as the yeah.
Right.
For the record, I was really, really thinking about that South Carolina game as the loss. And I kind of went back and forth in my head because I think LSU will lose a game to a team it's better than. It's like, okay, well, and I'm like, I don't believe in Alabama. I think they're going to go get that win. South Carolina is tough, but that's at home. And typically, you'd say, okay, well, South Carolina really wants revenge badly. Well, that kind of poetically, like that type of poetic stuff just tends to never play out the way it should. I think it's going to be playing at a place LSU's never played at in the history of its program. It's going to be playing at Gaylord Memorial Stadium for Oklahoma, and I think that's where they get tripped up.
I hate that game on the schedule too. Even if I think Oklahoma could just be. Actually, I do think they're overvalued.
I don't think Oklahoma's that great of a team. I think they're like 8-4.
Interesting.
Look, here's the thing. John Mateer, go look at his what he did against top teams. He played in the Pac-2 last year. Come on. Like his stats against upper echelon competition fell off quite a bit. He just didn't play a ton of it. So I'm not a huge believer in John Mateer, although he's better than what's the kid's name who transferred, Jackson Arnold. He's better than Jackson Arnold. Jackson Arnold wasn't very good for Oklahoma last year. And then, Brent Venables isn't exactly shown to be an offensive mastermind since he's gotten there. So, I think Oklahoma, they're an okay team, but I just don't see them going much better than 8-4, 9-3. Just a tricky spot for LSU. Real tricky spot, especially if they've ripped off 10 straight.
Are there any over-unders that you're in love with in the SEC this year? Really quickly, Arkansas at 5.5, South Carolina 7.5, A&M 7.5, Vanderbilt 4.5, Tennessee 8.5, Auburn 7.5, Florida 7.5, Kentucky 4.5, Mississippi State 3.5, Oklahoma 6.5, LSU 8.5, Ole Miss 8.5, Texas 9.5, Georgia's 9.5, Alabama's 9.5.
I like the Georgia one. First off, no SEC team above 9.5. That was the thing that I was going to say stands out. Someone's going to hit that over. So if you just take all the 8.5 and 9.5, hit the over, you're going to win somewhere, I guess. I like LSU's 8.5. I would be shocked if LSU is 8-4 again, unless Nussmeier gets hurt. If Nussmeier is healthy, I don't see a way where 8-4 is plausible on the table for this team. So I of the teams, I actually like that one the most. But the Georgia one's not bad either because Georgia's going to be a very good team. And if Texas pans out, Texas I have less confidence in because I think that a lot of that is being based off of Arch Manning being like Heisman level good. And I think Texas has a stacked team. Arch Manning is a great situation he's walking into, but I think I might have slightly more faith. Let's see. Tennessee was 8.5. Is that right?
Yeah.
I might like the under for Tennessee. I might like the under because, they're losing a lot from what they had. They lost Nico and company, and I believe they were 10-2 a year ago, but they're losing a lot. So I might take that under for Tennessee.
Yeah, but where are the losses here? I mean, Georgia.
All right, let's look. Let's look.
I mean, Georgia and Alabama. So that would put them at
Syracuse win. Is that who's the game 2 for them?
Eastern Tennessee.
All right, win. Georgia loss. UAB win. Mississippi State win.
Okay.
Arkansas win.
Okay.
Alabama. I'll take Alabama over them.
Okay.
Kentucky win. Oklahoma. That's a toss. I think Oklahoma could win that one. So there's 3 potential losses. Florida. I think Florida beats them. Oh yeah. Vanderbilt will be tough.
Right.
It would be tough. And then what's the one before Florida?
New Mexico State.
Okay. All right. So yeah, no, I mean, all right. That might not be a bad line given that's a pretty soft schedule.
Yeah.
I'd say I would look at that and say 8-4 or 9-3. So I think maybe they're right on the spot. Maybe they actually looked at the schedule, unlike me.
And here's a problem. You take a look at that Oklahoma game. Obviously, Heupel gets the locker room really up for that game, maybe because of his history there. Then Oklahoma, that'll be their 5th game in 5 weeks. And on top of that, that'll be their 4th time their 3rd time on the road in 4 weeks.
Yeah.
And the 3 prior teams all have over-unders at 7.5 or better. So you're talking about a team that's traveling and having to play 4 really difficult consecutive games.
Yeah.
So I'm with you. I was fading Tennessee. My Tennessee sources that I've gained from doing all the film breakdowns of Power Hour SEC, they have told me that their offense has been clunky, right? No Dylan Sampson, which was their offense last year. But it's a schedule. That Tennessee still has that favorable draw. Right?
I will have one counterpoint to this, though. But I have found, following the SEC as long as I have, in the years where LSU has had a very favorable schedule preseason, you look at this and say, well, maybe this team isn't that great, but the schedule, first off, sometimes that schedule turns out to be tough when it looks different. Yeah. LSU schedule we're looking at this year, I almost bet you anything it's not as tough as it looks right now. Right now, we're looking at this. This is a murderer's row, right?
Right.
We can all agree objectively. This is crazy good. The odds of it looking as tough as it is postseason as it does preseason, just statistically speaking, would be low. That it looks as tough as it does by end of the year, just because that's how football is. Teams can overperform and underperform expectations. Well, if all the expectations are up high like that, I mean, just by odds, some of them won't be as strong by the end of the year. Players will get hurt, whatever it is. Okay. I'm just telling you, it'd be rare for it to actually turn out to be tough. So that's one factor. But here's the stronger notion I'll say here. Mediocrity finds a way to manifest itself in football teams. So if you play a weak schedule, how many times have you seen the struggle win or whatever else? If you have a mediocre team, it will manifest itself on a weak schedule or strong schedule. That's just what I found historically speaking.
Make sure you follow him, PGuy77. Tell your wife and kids thank you for spending another Sunday night with us, and we'll talk to you soon, buddy.
All right, man. Thanks for having me.
Preston Guy, the ball knower. Check him out. Make sure you follow him, PGuy77. He does so much stuff on TigerBait.com. He's got his own show. Check it out, TigerBait.com. But honestly, the best LSU follow on Twitter. That's why it's got 21,000 followers, and we have 4. Great show tonight. We'll take a few more. Hey, sometimes you can see, right? Sometimes you can see. Let's go to that man Bless watching in Turkey. With the Holly situation, should BK regret his statement against John Emery. I don't know. But I will mention Trey Holly did have one long breakaway touchdown run. Really good game. He was interviewed after the game. Southern ended up losing, but Trey Holly had some juice, right? Ran the ball well. Might be the best thing for his career, actually getting to play. Now, how big of a piece would he have been on this year's team? It's really hard to tell because he wasn't able to compete against Caleb Jackson, right? So, yeah, I mean, we'll see. We'll see what happens here. For me, I'm just excited from the Southern side of things that increased visibility for the Southern Jaguar program. So I do think it's a good benefit for Baton Rouge to have a star like that, the Chucky doll, all of that, good stuff, right? But let's see how these other games play out to see, how dominant he is. I mean, he does have breakaway ability, as you saw yesterday. Let's see. LSU should pay Shador $4 million. I actually am glad, and welcome to the channel, Slam and Sammy. I don't think it's brought up enough that Garrett Nussmeier, and this is per the On3 evaluations, Garrett Nussmeier is making, and not the On3 evaluations, this is actually reported by, to me, the most prominent NIL reporter, which is Pete Nakos of On3. He was right about the Nico thing, even though his family was threatening him. According to him, Garrett Nussmeier at $1.5 million is basically the same as Taylon Green at $1.5 million of Arkansas. Garrett is way better than Taylon Green. Now, obviously, there are some things Taylon does better than Garrett, the biggest of which is running. But Garrett is a far better QB than Taylon Green. $1.5 million, which is crazy. When Duke paid Darian Mensah $4 million, the Tulane quarterback. And he's good. Darian Mensah is a great quarterback. We're supporters of the Green Wave. But the truth is, Garrett is just a ridiculous value. I don't know if Shador Sanders is better than Garrett Nussmeier, even though he is in the NFL. Now, I don't want to make this a Shador thing because I will say it once and I'll say it again. As much as I have argued about Garrett Nussmeier with so many different people in this chat, on shows, whatever, film studies, at least we can have logical debates about Garrett Nussmeier. For some reason, you can't have a logical debate about Shador Sanders. And literally, the people that defend him are crazy. Like, even reputable media members can't seem to cover this fairly or like a normal person. I don't even know if it's fairness with rationality. Okay, so on the NFL channel, I did a film study of every single one of his dropbacks. Okay, he was ass. I mean, it was so bad versus Rams. Well, he was with the backups. No, it was ass. Sorry, it was ass. Okay, so yeah, I think Garrett's better than Shador right now. Let's go to Pie Mayo. Taylon Green has better traits. Ooh, I love this debate. Oh, I freaking love this debate. So it depends on what your definition of traits are. Okay. Because outside of LSU, Arkansas and Tennessee are the two schools I do the most film studies on. And in fairness, I do more Commanders film studies than the other college teams, but that's a different story. But I watch a lot of Arkansas and Tennessee. Okay. Taylon Green does have a ridiculous arm, and he does have elite speed. It's not Lamar, Jaden level. It is freaking ridiculous speed. Okay. Those are great traits, great athleticism, all those different things. But there's other traits. Anticipation and processing are more important at the NFL level. Ask Drew Brees, ask Tom Brady, ask Peyton Manning, and ask Jaden Daniels, who is ridiculous in all those different things. So, yes, what NFL scouts covet are those traits, the athleticism. But give me Garrett all day, every day. And once again, it depends on the system, right? If we were to drop Garrett Nussmeier in the Baltimore Ravens system, I would rather Taylon Green running the Ravens system than Garrett Nussmeier running the Ravens system if I was just going to drop him into a system, right? But in most situations, I would prefer Garrett. Yeah, give me Nuss. And especially at that price. You're telling me Garrett at 1.5 and there's QBs making 2, there's QBs making 2.5? But look, Pie Man, you're not the only one. You are not the only one that's really high on Taylon Green. And let's be honest, he is a good quarterback. But he drives you crazy on a play-by-play basis, okay? And as someone who does a lot of Arkansas content, boy, oh boy, Arkansas football is melting down because the Detroit Lions took their wide receiver 4 on Arkansas in the 3rd round of the NFL draft. A wide receiver 4 on a clunky passing offense, and he's been the best rookie wide receiver in the preseason. So the Lions overdrafted this guy, traded up because they saw his talent, and Arkansas really didn't get anything out of it. My retort to that, though, is every school has a player that did not produce at an elite level at that school and then went to the NFL and lit it up, right? Like Alvin Kamara was very good at Tennessee, very, very, very good. But, he was playing under a crazy regime. And then obviously, I think a lot of you know the example for LSU regarding a player who did not live up to his expectations. Or he was good, but he wasn't all pro like he was in the NFL. And for those that don't know, that's Daniil Hunter. Fonchador, quite talented, won so much money on Colorado, not to mention his charisma. Yeah, no, he is interesting. But I don't think Taylon Green's a top 5 quarterback in the SEC. I don't. But I get it. It is very easy to be enamored with his traits. He interviews well. He himself is a good kid. So, I don't dislike him. Let me see. Jace Max coming in hot. Let's go. A Colorado fan say Sincere Brown will be better than Territoria McMillan. I'm having a difficult time drafting McMillan. By the way, go sign up now. Fast Draft Fantasy promo code Carter for a deposit match bonus up to $50. We are $20 away from hitting the hundo. We'll give out a DJ Chark auto. I have one sitting over here. A former number 7. A DJ Chark LSU auto. Yeah, I was a lot. Jace Max. Simper, good to see you, man. I'll holler at you later in the week, brother. Great show tonight, y'all. Okay. I will say, please be careful with what you read. All right. So I've gotten a few messages about a crazy message board rumor. It's just a rumor, so do not fight me on this. And I'm not even going to say the rumor, but it's stupid. It's really dumb. Okay. Now, could it be true? It very well could be true. Okay. All right, Jared wants to give it out. All right. DJ Chark Auto. Who are we giving it to? Yeah, I'm Nathan. That's not been confirmed at all. So now I'm going to say it aloud. I hope it's not true, to be honest, because I don't want to hear the gazillion excuses. Bryce Underwood will be the starter for Michigan in week 1. There were stories out there that he wasn't going to start. He's going to start. You can't pay him that much money. But yeah, Nathan, it's not. It's coming from a Clemson site, which is weird. But there you go. Simper wants to send it. All right, we got to give out a DJ Chark auto. Let's see which one. I got quite a few over here. Ooh, this is one of my favorite ones. Pulled it out. Beautiful blue autograph, blue pen. Look at that silver finish right there. Who are we sending this to? Let's go to Brambo. He says, Deshaun Womack is starting for Ole Miss and Quincy Wiggins is starting for Colorado. And one last thing on the message board thing. It might be true. I mean, it's impossible to know nowadays. I want him to be healthy. As crazy as that sounds. Okay. I understand it's a win no matter what type of situation, but we want the best. We want to play the best. Why not? Since he's back for the first time in forever. Simper, it's yours. Congratulations. DJ Chark, autograph, LSU auto. Card even looks better when you pull it out. I don't recommend you pulling anything out of plastic. Always use protection when dealing with cards and other things. This thing has a great silver rainbow hollow foil finish. DJ Chark, a 6'3", 187-pound receiver, was a 2-year starter at LSU. Congratulations, Simper. Good stuff, bro. But yes, I do not want Cade Klubnik hurt. I want Clemson fully healthy. The worst is, he had excuses. It's kind of like a few years ago when we lost to Florida State in week 1. And there were some LSU fans that say, well, you know what? We wouldn't have lost that game if Mason Smith didn't tear his ACL on the first drive. And to that I say, don't make excuses. The only real excuse you could make as far as like one singular injury is a quarterback. So I don't want that. Now, yeah, there are some other injuries that have hurt LSU in losses and have helped LSU in losses. But my girlfriend is rich and famous, so it is pretty. Jared says, F you, CB. I'm okay with excuses. Just give me the W. I love it. But Quincy Wiggins starting for Colorado. Interesting. So we'll see how Womack plays. Obviously, when Wiggins was here, they tried. They tried. He just didn't ever do anything in practice. And Dion has really coached him up, right? Like, has really pushed him. And he won, I think, at Colorado, like scout team player of the week or year or something like that. Obviously, physically, Quincy Wiggins is a specimen. We'll see. We'll see how he does this year. I'm rooting for him. Deshaun Womack was just so interesting. Like, he played better. He was one of the many defensive ends who got better under Kevin Peoples. But, there were some extracurriculars. He didn't dress out for a game, and it wasn't a health-related thing. So yeah, we'll see. Ole Miss, though, they take Sage Ryan and they take Deshaun Womack. They were really hurting for players defensively because, they spent so much in the last portal cycle and they just wasted, to me, one of the best SEC teams I've seen to not make the playoffs. They were that good. I'm leaning Auburn over Baylor, which is weird because I know to not bet Jackson Dart, but I'm going to do it. Sawyer Robertson at home. Preston Guy, who was just on with us, has already reported that this is fake. This is a true fake news situation. So there you go. I knew that was going to get quickly refuted. Ole Miss adds an offensive lineman for 2025. Iowa Western Community College, Cooper Johnson. So I guess if you go to that low, you could be immediately eligible. I didn't know that. I really didn't. Well, Preston, who was just on with us, has already confirmed that it's fake. Once again, if it was real, the sports books would have taken that down. And honestly, like, I sometimes wonder if, like, the fake message board thing is a way for sports books to say, or the way for sports books to swing action, right? Because the best way to get a good bet down is information, right? We can get into a discussion about like top down, bottom up betting. But the best way is to have information before others, right? That's why, inside trading in sports betting or Jonte Porters are taken so seriously, right? Because the people that bet it have information, right? But sometimes I wonder if like message board rumors are posted because there could be some sports bettors out there that already found value in LSU +4, and they would immediately go hammer LSU +4 just to get more money on one side. Nothing happened. Okay. Nothing happened. According to Preston Guy, it's fake. I saw Robbie Ashford got a starting job today at Wake Forest. But yeah, BK's had some injury luck at QB going in his favor throughout his career. Knock on wood. So there you go. I can't believe LSU no, I don't think it's real. Cade's an Austin kid, though. There you go. All right. That'll do it for me. I'll tweet out if anything else it comes to that. I don't think there's anything there. Big thanks to our guest, Preston Guy. Tomorrow, we will have a film study of some sort release. Thanks to our top super chatters of the evening, Adam, Semper, BT, Dex with the new intro, Sibley, and Semper. It is Power Hour LSU. Boom. Shout out to Jared sending some supers via Venmo. And tonight we are doing meatballs. Let's go.